everyone, welcome back to our channel, brighttobias. Today we're diving into a massive international story that's been making waves. Donald Trump's decision to freeze all U.S. aid to South Africa. This comes after South Africa passed a new land expropriation law, and Trump claims it's discriminatory against white farmers. But is that really the case, or is there more to this story? We're going to break down the economic impact, the legal details, the political reactions, and the social context behind this controversy. Stick around, because this is a complex issue with global implications. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Stay tuned. So let's set the stage. On February 7, 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order that halted all U.S. aid to South Africa. We're talking about $440 million in 2023 alone, much of which went to critical programs like HIV/AIDS relief. Why did he do this? Well, Trump and his allies, including Elon Musk, have pointed to South Africa's new Expropriation Act, which was signed into law by President Cyril Ramaphosa in January 2025. This law aims to address one of the most enduring legacies of apartheid: land inequality. During apartheid, which ended in 1994, Black South Africans were forcibly removed from their land, leaving most of the country's farmland in the hands of the white minority. Today, white South Africans, who make up just 7.2% of the population, still own about 3/4 of the privately held land. The new law allows the government to expropriate land in certain cases, sometimes without compensation, if it's deemed to be in the public interest, like if the land is unused or needed for public projects. But Trump and others have framed this as a land grab targeting white Afrikaner farmers, claiming it's government-sponsored race-based discrimination. He's even offered to resettle these farmers in the U.S. as refugees. Sounds dramatic, right? But is it true? Let's break it down. First, let's look at the Expropriation Act itself. Contrary to what some might think, this law doesn't allow the government to just seize land arbitrarily. There are strict conditions. For example, expropriation without compensation can only happen in specific cases, like when the land is unused, abandoned, or poses a public risk. Even then, there are 17 steps that must be followed before any land can be taken, including negotiations with the owner and oversight by South Africa's independent courts. The law is designed to replace the old 1975 Expropriation Act, which was in place during apartheid and actually allowed for more unchecked government power. The new law aims to balance property rights with the need to address historical injustices. Importantly, the South African government has repeatedly said that no land has been seized under this law yet, and any expropriation would follow a constitutionally mandated legal process. So, the narrative of a mass land grab targeting white farmers? It's not supported by the facts. But that hasn't stopped Trump and others from pushing this story, which brings us to the economic fallout. Now let's talk money. The U.S. has been a major donor to South Africa, especially through programs like PEPFAR, which fights HIV/AIDS. In 2023, the U.S. sent nearly $440 million in aid, with over $270 million coming from USAID alone. This money has been crucial for health programs, education, and development projects. But with Trump's executive order, all that funding is now frozen. Experts warn that this could have devastating consequences, especially for South Africa's health sector. Millions of people rely on these programs for life-saving treatments. And it's not just about aid. Trump has also threatened tariffs and other economic measures which could further strain South Africa's economy. The South African rand has already taken a hit, with volatility spiking after Trump's announcement. And remember, South Africa is Africa's most industrialized economy, so any economic instability here could ripple across the continent. But the economic story isn't just about aid. It's also about the broader issue of land reform and how it affects investment. Critics of the law argue that uncertainty around property rights could deter both domestic and foreign investors, which could hurt job creation and growth. On the other hand, supporters say that addressing land inequality is essential for long-term economic stability. So, how are people reacting to all this? Let's start with South Africa. The African National Congress, ANC, which leads the government, has accused Trump of amplifying misinformation, particularly claims pushed by Afrikaner lobby groups like AfriForum. They've called his actions a campaign of propaganda and pointed out that no widespread land seizures have occurred. But here's where it gets interesting. Even the Democratic Alliance, the DA, South Africa's second-largest party and a coalition partner with the ANC, has criticized the Expropriation Act, but for different reasons. The DA, which has a significant white voter base, argues that the law is unconstitutional because it gives the government too much power to seize property. They've even filed a lawsuit in the Western Cape High Court to challenge it. But the DA has also corrected Trump's misinformation, saying the law doesn't allow for arbitrary land seizures and requires fair compensation in most cases. On the international stage, Trump's move has been met with a mix of criticism and support. Some far-right groups in the US and Europe have praised him for standing up for white farmers, while others, including South African civil society organizations, have called his claims dangerous lies. Even Afrikaner groups like AfriForum, which have long opposed the land reform efforts, have largely rejected Trump's refugee offer, saying they want to stay and fight for their rights in South Africa. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Land reform in South Africa isn't just about economics or politics. It's deeply emotional and tied to the country's history of racial injustice. During apartheid, Black South Africans were forcibly removed from their land, creating a legacy of inequality that persists today. For many, land reform is about restoring dignity and addressing those wrongs. But for others, especially white farmers, the fear of losing their land is real, even if the actual risk is often exaggerated. This fear has been amplified by groups like AfriForum, which have campaigned in the US against South Africa's land reform efforts, often using misleading narratives about white genocide. These claims have been debunked by experts, but they resonate with certain audiences, especially in far-right circles. Trump's intervention has internationalized this debate, but it's also been criticized for oversimplifying a complex issue. South Africa is a young democracy trying to balance the rights of all its citizens while addressing the scars of its past. And while Trump's actions may play well with his base, they risk undermining US-South Africa relations and ignoring the real challenges on the ground. So, where do we go from here? In South Africa, the legal challenges to the Expropriation Act are just beginning. The DA's lawsuit could set a precedent for how the law is implemented, and other opposition parties may join the fight. Meanwhile, President Ramaphosa has said he'll send envoys to explain the law to other countries, hoping to counter the misinformation. On the US side, the aid freeze is likely to face pushback from Congress, especially from those who see programs like PEPFAR as critical to global health. And let's not forget the broader geopolitical context. South Africa's ties with Russia, China, and Iran are also on Trump's radar. So this could be just the start of a bigger diplomatic showdown. For ordinary South Africans, the stakes are high. Will land reform finally deliver on its promise of equality, or will it be derailed by political and economic pressures? And for the US, will Trump's actions strengthen its influence in Africa, or will they push South Africa closer to rival powers? And that's the story so far. This is a complex, emotionally charged issue with no easy answers. But one thing is clear. The decisions made in the coming months will have a lasting impact on South Africa, the US, and beyond. What do you think? Should the US be involved in South Africa's land reform debate? And how should South Africa balance property rights with historical justice? Let me know in the comments below. If you find this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping our world. Until next time, stay out of trouble.